Private versus public. Organizations come in both forms. Just how do they differ? And in particular for us, how does financial management differ among these different types of organizations? I'm Frank Werner, Associate Professor of Finance at Fordham University in New York City. In this video, we will explore the financial similarities and differences between public and private organizations. Some organizations are private, like corporations, controlled, some would say owned, by individuals or groups of individuals. Others are public, such as charities or government entities, and are not owned by individuals. In many respects, the financial needs of public organizations are similar to those of private organizations. Neither can afford to totally run out of money. Both need to have enough accessible cash to pay their bills, and both need to have enough money to be able to weather bad times. In addition, both need to maintain relationships with finance professionals, and both need to have the skills to analyze the financial implications of various courses of action. We looked at these 5 key responsibilities in our last video, and they are applicable to all organizations, regardless of their form. However, there are some significant financial differences between private and public organizations. Here are 4 of the most significant: the goals of the organization, how it raises money, how it decides how large to become, and how it views the boundaries between itself and the rest of the world. First, goals. For many years, the goal of private organizations was to maximize their financial value to their investors, shareholder wealth maximization. This is why they are often referred to as for-profits. And even though that goal is changing to include the company's impact on the environment and society, all private companies still strive to increase their financial value. However, since public organizations do not have investors in the same sense as for-profits, there is no analog to shareholder wealth maximization, so they are often referred to as not-for-profits. Rather, the primary goal of public organizations is mission-related and not financial, to provide services and assistance to their target populations. To the extent there is a financial goal, it is to grow the financial resources of the organization in order to further its mission and to expand outreach. Second, sources of funds. Both private for-profit companies and public not-for-profit organizations bring in money by selling goods and services. Subject to their financial condition, they both also have the ability to borrow to raise additional money. However, beyond the sale of goods and services and borrowing, there is a significant difference in the remaining sources of funds. For-profit companies source additional funds by selling ownership in the organization, shares of stock in the case of corporations. Not-for-profits, with no owners, have nothing comparable to sell. Instead, they raise additional funds through gifts and donations, dues, grants, and income from endowment funds. Third, determinants of scale. The scale of activity of not-for-profits is typically determined by their level of funding. Most not-for-profits, interested in reaching as many beneficiaries of their work as possible, scale up when the funding to do so is available, and scale back down if their funding slows down. On the other hand, the typical for-profit establishes a target scale of activity based upon its analysis of market demand, and then raises the funding required to purchase the resources necessary to meet that demand. Said another way, for-profits determine funding needs based upon their desired scale of activity, while not-for-profits determine their scale of activity based upon the funding available. And fourth, boundaries. In economics, an externality is a benefit not paid for or a cost for which there is no reimbursement. Externalities can be positive or negative. That is, they can provide a benefit or cause harm. A commonly cited example of a positive externality is the requirement that people be immunized against common diseases. Those who come in contact with these people experience a reduced risk of contracting these diseases without paying directly for that benefit. A commonly cited example of a negative externality is secondhand smoke from cigarettes. People exposed to secondhand smoke experienced a heightened risk of disease, but no one reimburses them for any resulting medical expenses or shortened life expectancy. The concerns that lead to externalities are particularly visible in environmental and social justice issues, for example, pollution or poor factory working conditions. It's all too common for for-profits to take advantage of these externalities to achieve higher profits, hence greater financial value. On the other hand, not-for-profits often internalize environmental and social justice costs and benefits, making them part of their financial analyses so they can measure impact. This is particularly so when the environmental or social issues are central to their missions. At the beginning of this video, I used the word owners to refer to shareholders of a private company. Actually, I find the concept that shareholders are the owners of a private company to be troublesome, and I'm not alone in this belief. All that shareholders really own is a legal contract that gives them certain rights, and actually very few rights with respect to the company. The right to vote for members of the board of directors that oversees the company's management, the right to a share of the company's profits, but only if management decides to pay a dividend, and the right to sell their shares whenever and to whomever they wish. But unless they own a very large percentage of the company's common shares, they have no say in the running of the company. This is very different than saying that you own a car, where you have total control of how it is used. So, the financial activities of private companies and public organizations are quite similar. Both manage for solvency, liquidity, and resilience, and both maintain relationships with financial professionals and have financial analysis skills. But they differ in four important respects: goals, sources of funds, determinants of scale, and boundaries.